Hi there, this is Amy. I appreciate you stopping by to my glass painting videos. Tonight I'm going to be painting on a stemless champagne glass. I've already gone ahead and I wanted to try this. I've seen this on Pinterest and I'm kind of intrigued with it to see how well it actually works. Since the glass is so thin, it's not very wide, I've actually doubled my rubber bands, or twisted them, however you want to say it. So there's some spots that won't actually be flat like this. It'll be kind of curved or twisted a little bit, but just fine. This is just for me to see how it actually works. If you're going to do this on your own, I mean, you can try rubber bands or try it on a wine glass that's a little bit thicker, maybe smaller with rubber bands. I just grabbed what I had so that I could do a demo. And just twisted, it's actually 3 different rubber bands, twisted them and placed them just sporadically on the glass. And then I'm going to take Frost White, which is a folk art enamel glass paint, and I'm going to use the pouncing tool, Martha Stewart pouncing tool, place the Frost White on here, and then I'm not going to remove the rubber bands right away. Typically, if I were using tape, I probably would, but I feel like there's no way I'm going to be able to do that with a wet paint glass. So I'm going to see what happens when I leave the rubber bands on for the paint to dry, and then I'll be back to do part 2 of this to show you some things you can do with it to fancy it up a little bit once you've pounced the frostbite on. So I'm just going to go ahead and start and get as far down at the bottom as I can when I'm pouncing it on, and try to do one side and then turn it. Also remember to try to leave a space up here for the lips so that when somebody's drinking out of it, they're not actually touching the paint, or as little of the paint as possible. And when you're doing this, also just make sure you get up as close to under the rubber band as you can, so that you try to get crisper lines when you're doing that. And you can also do this type of technique if you want to get painter's tape. I do know that they do actually make glass painting tape that you can use, which might work better than just regular paint tape. But if you're like me, I kind of grab what I have around the house at the time I'm doing a project and go from there with it. So it just depends on your budget, your time frame, if you're in a hurry, if you just start trying something out and it doesn't really matter. Like this glass is just something I had that I haven't painted on. Had it when I was actually doing more painting of glasses to sell, which I might be increasing again here soon, trying to make some sets for Christmas gifts, and may add some glassware again to my hangers. I think that would be a nice gift for a bride-to-be, somebody that's getting engaged or recently engaged. I'm just kind of intrigued on how this is going to turn out. And like I said, once I do it, I'm going to come back and show you some things you can do to kind of spruce the glass up a little bit if you don't want to just leave it plain. And it may look really cool with it being plain, who knows? Only time will tell. I know you probably get tired of me repeating this, but I'm going to say it hopefully every time I do a video. When you use glass paint, make sure you follow the manufacturer's guidelines that they provide, or the directions for using their paint. There are so many different paint products on the market for glass painting that they all vary. So the instruction for one is not going to be identical, or may not be identical to the instructions on a different, the next type of glass paint. I know with folk art enamels, they do recommend air drying for about an hour before you bake it. You can actually, with the folk art enamels, they can actually cure by air drying for 21 days. That does not mean that you can't use it or touch it. That's not going to be dry to the touch, because it is. Curing is just when the paint is actually fully dry and probably more durable at that point. My understanding with the folk art enamels is by baking them, they actually are more durable than if you are just letting them air dry. However, there are some designs I would definitely recommend air drying over baking because of the chances of your paint bubbling when you bake it. That's one thing you have to remember when you're using this paint. The thicker you put it on, the more durable it will be, but you also have to be careful that the paint doesn't bubble. If you have it on too thickly, it's going to bubble, and it's not going to be nearly as pretty as if you had watched how much you put on. And a lot of times you might find this when you're maybe doing some writing, doing line work or something like that, where you've added thicker lines. That just kind of comes to my mind, things that I've experienced with it. Always put your glass in a cold oven, then preheat. I do add my preheat time to my bake time. And then the next thing would be to remember, let the oven cool before you pull the glass out. Quick change in temperature is what typically will cause your glass to break. So if you want your glass to last and be around after you put the hard work in of painting it, please follow those guidelines. Make sure too that you clean your glass prior to painting on it. That will help remove any grime or oils from being handled, to allow your paint to adhere better to the glass. And I think right now I'm going to stop with this and just leave it as it is. And I'm not going to go above the rubber band because that's going to be my space to drink from the glass. I did not actually go to the bottom here. I think I might have touched it with my fingers or whatnot. But you can, if you want to set this upside down and paint the bottom of it, you can. Just make sure you bake it upside down so that the baked glass part, the painted part, is not actually on the pan or your rack. And I will have people ask me about, if I have to have a pan or do I. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Alright, so this is the first video. I will do a part 2 to remove the rubber bands after the paint is dried. Take a look at the glass and see if we want to spruce it up with some other designs to make it a little bit more festive. Again, thanks for stopping by, and look forward to part number 2. Have a good evening.